Yes. What's next for Team Zissou?
Well, that was only part one. It's a cliffhanger. Now I'm going to go hunt down that shark, or whatever it is, and hopefully kill it. I don't know how yet. Maybe dynamite.
You don't know what it is?
No, I've never seen anything like it before in my life.
You say this is a jaguar shark. That's the title of your film.
It was coming right at us. I just said the first two words that came into my head.
Mais c'est une espèce en voie de disparition. Pourquoi vouloir la tuer?
That's an endangered species at most. What would be the scientific purpose of killing it?
Revenge.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Film Bros podcast. My name is Isaiah Lucas, and I am joined by my co-hosts.
Abraham.
And Nick.
How y'all doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm a little tired, but I'm good.
Yeah, good. Stressful day of work, but I'm ready to talk.
Yeah, I had a stressful day too, man.
What the heck is going on with these Mondays, dude?
I don't know, dude.
It's a Monday, that's why.
My day was busy.
Absolutely
Like,
trash. You texted me, and I could not reply to you until later on, just because I was so stressed at work.
Yeah, I couldn't. I have to take 2 breaks at work, like by law. They're like, people come up to me and be like, "Did you take a break?"
No,
Like,
seriously?
Yeah,
No, that's how it is.
Like,
I wish I had
so
something like that.
I didn't get to take one of my breaks today because I was just so swamped. Like I had so much stuff going on, people calling me and people coming into the office and all this stuff. Like it was just phone off the hook all day.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. But
Yeah. We all had stressful days, huh?
yeah. So it'll give us a little chance to unwind and
Decompress.
exactly.
Laugh
And
a little, hopefully.
yeah, because I personally think this is one of Wes Anderson's funnier movies. I really enjoy this movie. It makes me laugh a lot, and I think that maybe that's just a little telling of like my style of humor. Like my humor is very dry, and I think it's hilarious. Like when stuff doesn't land. So I think that that's more or less why I like this movie a lot,
Yeah,
and like also why I love The Office. You know,
Yeah.
like that's that type of humor is hilarious to me.
Probably the best humor, actually.
I
think.
definitely agree. Yeah, a lot of the reason why I like Wes Anderson a lot too is because a lot of his humor is like you can't expect it.
Yeah, it's total deadpan.
It's total deadpan. you expect someone to like build up the punchline, and when they get to the punchline, it's like this. You know, it's like a joke. It's funny.
Yeah.
But it's the way that his dialogue works. It's very much not like that.
No.
It's just straight up like I'm just gonna talk deadpan until something funny happens, and
Yeah.
it's gonna be funny just because of how it's written. But
yeah,
it's all about the delivery, man.
yeah, most definitely. So if you guys stayed all the way to the end of our last episode, you would have known that we were doing the episode on the 2004 film called The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. This was written by Wes Anderson and Noah Baumbach and directed by Wes Anderson.
Yes,
and
sir.
interestingly enough, we've also done another episode here previously that was a Noah Baumbach film.
I was about to say Noah Baumbach seems very familiar.
Yep.
He wrote what or directed?
He wrote and directed Marriage Story.
Marriage Story.
He's also done a few others like The Squid and the Whale
Okay.
and a couple other big movies.
Wow.
But he's a pretty big name now as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So they were up and together. They were, together up and coming, writing this stuff and helping each other make their movies. So
That's what I'm talking about, man.
yeah. Well, I mean, before we get started with this, I from what I understand, I believe this is like your guys' first experience with this movie, correct?
Yeah, it was my first watch.
I would. Oh, go ahead.
It was my first watch, and I feel like I blinded myself because I saw Mr. Fantastic Fox first, and I liked that movie so much. I had high hopes for this movie.
Oh, okay.
And I was just like, oh, dang. Like, I found myself just trying to find things like Mr. Fantastic Fox, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So, how many Wes Anderson films have you actually seen?
I think this is my third one. And
Okay.
I think my top one would probably be Bottle Rocket.
Okay.
Because I watched it with you,
Yeah.
and that one had me laughing the whole time.
Yeah.
That one's such a good one.
Okay.
And then Mr. Fantastic Fox, and now The Life Aquatic of Steve.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, the more I think about it, I haven't really seen a lot of his movies. For as much as I love him,
Yeah.
I have hardly seen any of his actually live action movies.
Okay.
Like this, it would be this one and then Bottle Rocket. I think that's all I've seen. Like I have Grand Budapest Hotel under my like watch list. I have I didn't watch the entire thing, but Moonrise Kingdom, I watched a majority of it, but I didn't complete it.
Yeah.
So I need to go back to that. And then what else does he have?
He's got Royal
Rushmore,
Tenenbaums.
running, yeah. I always see that on the Criterion Collection.
Yeah.
And I never get it. But it's like, it's got to be like, what is it?
Royal Tenenbaums, I think, came out in like 2000, 2001, maybe.
Yeah. That one's been on my list too.
Yeah. That's a really good one, too. Ben Stiller's in that one.
Ben Stiller.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, Ben Stiller, I admire this man so much.
I like Ben Stiller, too.
Only because recently I've been watching the show called Severance.
Oh, okay. I've heard
And-
a lot about that.
Dude, I've been waiting to gush about it. I'm not going to do it here because we have this movie, but he is the writer and producer, or I think director on that show, and that show is just incredible.
Okay.
So I have a lot more respect for Ben Stiller,
Yeah. He's directed and written one of my favorite movies of all time,
which is
The Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
oh yes, and
And he acts in it, too.
you talk so much good things about that.
I love The Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
Okay.
And I feel like this the Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou sort of falls in that same category as the Secret Life of Walter Mitty, because both of those movies I think like flopped a little bit with critics. I'm not sure if the Secret Life of Walter Mitty flopped in the box office, but I know the Life Aquatic did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have the budget, I'm guessing,
I have
and
the budget.
We'll talk about it
Yeah,
a little
yeah,
later,
definitely.
but it does hurt me. Like when I see it, I'm like, oh man, like
I can see it though.
it sucks.
I can see it why.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty typical for a lot of Wes Anderson films. Unfortunately, like a lot of his early filmography flopped.
Mhm.
Like it flopped a lot.
Didn't you, Nick? You used to love Isle of Dogs, didn't you?
I'm trying to think if that was my first ever exposure to Wes Anderson.
Because I remember you would tell me, dude, you got to watch Isle of Dogs. Isle of Dogs.
You know what? I remember I watched that. I can't remember if it was in theaters or if it was. No, it wasn't, dude. I remember it was for Christmas. I had the 4K edition on to the top of my list, and when I got it, dude, I remember watching it and crying. It doesn't seem like a movie you cry to, but for some reason, I connected to those dogs and to that freaking kid so much, which is why I will say it's probably one of my favorite Wes Anderson films.
Okay.
Just of the ones I've seen.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah,
Glad you brought that up.
I was just looking at his list, and I was like, wait, Isle of Dogs?
Well, there was a moment there too when it was one of my like when we did that whole the audience chooses the movies we do. Isle of Dogs was one of the options.
Yeah.
So we might actually return to it.
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay.
I'd like to revisit it. It would be my second time watching.
I've never seen it.
So.
I still haven't seen it. Even though
I'll
you
cry
tell me.
again, man.
But yeah, we're gonna be talking about The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. I'll give you guys a brief synopsis of this film before we dive into it a little bit here. But this movie is about an oceanographer who has a cast and crew, or I guess it just should say ship crew, who he sails the ocean with, and they go out and discover certain sea creatures and areas of the ocean. And he's also a filmmaker. He makes documentary films about his travels in the ocean. And it's this movie's supposed to be heavily inspired by, I believe his name is Jacques Cousteau.
Cousteau. It's French, right?
I believe
I think so.
But he was a famous documentarian as well, and also oceanographer who would travel the seas and catalog certain flora and fauna and fish life and all that stuff deep in the ocean. And he even made a film called I forget what it's called, like The Strange Life or
The Silent
Life, or
I
The
think-
Silent Place or something.
The Silent World?
Maybe
One of
that's
those,
it.
you get one of those words, you
Yeah,
connect
maybe
it, you'll
that's
find it.
But it's supposed to be considered one of the greatest documentaries ever made.
Yeah,
The
one
Silent
that's
World.
with the Silent
Is that what
World.
it's called?
Yeah.
The
One
Silent
that's not
World.
only educational but also very gripping.
Yeah, and very beautiful.
Yeah.
It's in
And,
1956.
Yeah, it's considered one of the best documentaries ever made. So this movie is heavily inspired by that, and Wes Anderson sort of puts his own little take on it. But yeah, it's about this oceanographer, this cast and crew. I don't know why I keep saying cast. This crew that
Well, they kind of are actors.
They're his cast.
They're in the
they're in the film.
Yeah, so
right?
they're- yeah.
So he, they go around, they film documentaries about their travels and stuff, and then they go out and show those films to audiences to try to fund their next film that they'll make, and will show their next discoveries that they made and all that stuff.
Gotcha.
And the whole premise for the film is, while showing their latest film, it's discovered that one of Steve Zissou's best friends, Esteban, was killed by an unknown species called a jaguar shark. And we're not sure if the jaguar shark is real or if it is fake. We're not entirely sure, but we go on this entire journey to find out if this jaguar shark is real, and Steve Zissou's mission is to kill it.
Revenge.
for revenge, because it killed his friend Esteban.
He pulls a Batman line, dude, and he goes, "I'm vengeance."
Yeah. Seriously. Do you imagine Bill Murray
As Batman.
as Batman walking up and saying, "I'm vengeance"? Like,
It's just deadpan. Like, I would love to see that.
that'd be funny. And he just pulls out that gun that he does all those pirates, starts going,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, so let's get into this a little bit. I believe this is streaming on Prime.
Yes.
I own this movie on Criterion Collection, which is something I'm very proud of.
Yes.
Anytime that summer sale comes around, or anytime that half off sale comes around, I find myself getting more and more of Wes Anderson's movies.
Mm-hmm.
And the last time that sale came around, I bought Bottle Rocket, Rushmore, and The Life Aquatic.
Mm-hmm.
So now I still have to get Royal Tenenbaums. I have
Grand Budapest. Do they have that one?
Yeah,
on?
they have Grand Budapest.
I feel like all of his movies are there.
Yeah, I need to get Moonrise Kingdom.
Yeah.
I have it already, but I don't have it on Criterion.
That's a movie
So you don't have.
I want to watch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I didn't have Uncut Gems until I had Uncut Gems on Criterion.
That's what I'm talking about.
So any of the movies that we own, we don't own.
I kind of hate that too, because I have a section of my collection that's just regular DVD. I'm like, I gotta replace those with the Blu-rays.
Man, and see, all my movies are not Blu-ray.
That's
think
the
I like-
only way. Ever since that Goodfellas incident I had, dude, that's when the episode you were sick.
I was sick.
Dude, I have the standard def, just a regular DVD,
Pixelated.
and it was horrifying. It was so pixely, so bad. I had to turn it off and rent it in high def, and I never want to deal with that again.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it was horrible.
I just stick to getting Blu-rays, and it's cheaper to go to like a place like Rasputin's where you can get a Blu-ray for $6 versus going to like Target or Walmart or Best Buy and getting it for $20.
Yeah,
So
they're getting expensive, man.
yeah,
They are.
yeah. That's why we say Rasputin's, Mad Monk.
Go
Dude,
clutch.
I love
the
love
goat.
it.
All right. Well, let's get into talking about this movie, man. We're going to get into some short spoilers and stuff like that and everything. So if you haven't seen this movie, again, go check it out. I do recommend it. Again, if you have Prime, stream it there. If you want to buy a copy, I suggest you buy a copy. It's a fun film, and I think it's something that everyone will enjoy. So definitely go check this one out. All right. I'm going to go ahead and open us up our favorite scenes with the intro. I personally love how we get introduced to all these characters through the lens of screening their documentary.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately it's so Wes Anderson.
Oh, it's so Wes
Like,
Anderson.
you get this whole like audience, and you see this like big ornate theater, and then it's just you see the frame is these curtains and then the screen.
Mm-hmm.
And you just see like the Life Aquatic and then you see Bill Murray with his shirt off,
Just
saying with Steve Zissou, and it's got this like little 808s in the background, where it's just like tick 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 tick, like little electric beat, which I love.
Mhm.
And I love getting introduced to all of the characters through the documentary.
Mhm.
So we feel like the audience, we're watching this film take place, and we're getting introduced to these characters just as the audience is.
Mhm.
I love the cinematography and just how immediate the charisma is from the film. And that's one of the things I really love about Wes Anderson movies, is he has this quality to his films to totally encapsulate what it feels like in the world that he builds, and makes it like ooze through the screen. Like he does the same thing with Bottle Rocket and I think I also immediately think like Grand Budapest Hotel, and I also want to say Royal Tenenbaums. Like he has a style that is so unique and all his own that he makes me feel immediately like I am there. But I really love that whole intro scene, and it also has a couple funny like exchanges whenever we find out that Esteban was killed.
Yeah.
Like also I think it's pretty funny too when they're like filming or showing the documentary. He's like, oh look, fluorescent snapper. And there's like all these, fish going by, and you see Esteban sit there just in the back, and he's all smiling. And there's like all these fish going behind him, and he's just smiling. Yeah. And then all of a sudden we see this like blood coming from the water,
just randomly.
Off the rip. Yeah, right off the cuff. There's like blood in the water. We're like, what the heck just happened, dude? And then Bill Murray's character comes out, and he's just like, Esteban, he's been eaten. And we see Willem Dafoe's character, whose name is German. Klaus. And he comes up and he's like, where's Esteban? And he was all, Esteban was eaten. Esteban. And he's all, is he bitten? And he's all, he was eaten. Is he dead? Yeah, and there's just all this blood in the water. And he's like, yeah, dude, he is.
Of course
I said he is eaten. And he said he was ripped apart. He was swallowed whole. He was bitten in half by the shark. It was bigger than me. He was like, look at him. You think he has crazy eye.
And it zooms in. It zooms into his eye, and it's all like blue.
Yeah, he's like, eyes are all red and blue. And he tells him, we think you've got crazy eye. We need to get you out of the water. And then he looks at the crew and says, get him out of the freaking water. They all pull him out real quick. And then I believe that documentary ends.
It does,
at that point. And it goes to a Q&A. And we just see, a translator, because the film is screening in Italy. And we see a translator and then Steve Zissou, and they're, it's the chance for the audience to ask questions. And they're starting to ask him, was it a deliberate choice to not show the jaguar shark? And was it a deliberate, why did you do this? Why didn't you do this? Did Esteban really die? And all this stuff. And it gets to the point where he starts to say, like, I don't know if it's real or if it's not. I don't know what I saw, but I know my friend died, and I put a tracker on it, and I'm going to kill it.
Yep.
And they're like, I don't know how yet. Maybe with dynamite.
Yep.
I'm not sure.
Which
they follow through with that, sort of.
Yeah, and immediately it gets into this conversation of, like, if anything, it's an endangered species. Why? What would you gain from killing it?
Yeah, what's the scientific purpose for it?
Yeah, and then...
Revenge.
Exactly. He just says, revenge. Then it cuts and we get introduced to a couple other characters.
Yeah.
All that stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, I like the introduction a lot. It was one of my first ones too. Only because I think Wes Anderson does it often, but it's the meshing of two like styles. Whereas you have like the realistic life that's in the documentary, and then you see those fish in the background.
Yeah.
And they're like
stop motion.
Yeah,
like
stop
claymation.
Claymation. Yeah. And a recurring theme for me is that every single scene that shows these aquatic life like this,
I
freaking love it.
Like,
dude.
I love the
seahorse. The seahorse is so cool.
He's all a crayon seahorse or something.
Yeah.
And he
crayon ponyfish.
Yeah, and he pulls it up and it's all
it
looks beautiful.
It's so cool.
And it's this tiny little claymation thing. It's so cute.
It immediately sets the film up to be unique and like nothing else. You know what I mean? To merge these two so successfully is something I absolutely enjoy. And I also think the way that they introduce the characters is great too. Only because when you come in, there's a lot of information right off the rip. You have Steve Zissou, you have freaking everybody in the film, you have Klaus, you have all of his people, and you're like, what the heck? But he does a really good job at world building and building up the tension between the shark and all that stuff. Yeah. So I think it was a really good introduction.
Yeah, most definitely.
My next scene is probably about like 20 minutes in. It's when they're explaining the layout of the boat.
Yes, the boat tour scene.
Yes, I really do love that one as well. That's my next one, is the introduction to the Belafonte.
Yes. So he's explaining it to his son, who he even gets a supposed to be son, which is Ned. I don't know how to say his last name.
Plimpton.
So he's
we
just
call him Kingsley.
If you want. So he's just explaining like the rooms and what's in the Belafonte, and the way that they showed it kind of reminds me of the game Fallout Vault.
Yeah,
how-
it's a cross section.
Yeah.
Of the actual
like they cut it
ship.
in half.
Yeah.
And I just love
So
it because
unique, dude.
it shows it, and then it goes to each and every room. And
Yeah.
the room that I fell in love with was the
The spa.
no,
The
not
sauna.
the
The
spa.
sauna in a
Why,
boat.
like,
I was
why do
like-
they have a sauna? No, but it's like I don't know what they call it, but it's when he's laying down and looking.
Like the observatory deck
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah,
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 at the
yeah.
bottom.
He's like,
Yeah.
actually,
He says,
I thought of that in a dream.
Yeah.
yeah. I loved it, but I just love it because you don't really see like that kind of style. It was
Mhm.
unique, and it was a really cool way to show the boat and how it works,
Yeah.
and that's what I really liked.
Yeah. I really enjoy too, like Bill Murray's character breaking the fourth wall a little bit and like staring at the camera and holding a model ship
Mm-hmm.
and then being like, let me tell you about my boat. And then, it goes to the cross section and it takes you through all these rooms, and it's very unique. And the fact that like we're almost getting introduced to the ship like it's its own character.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoy, walking through it and seeing all these moving parts and seeing everything that will later become significant. Like, the sauna is a very specific thing that a lot of people go to in this boat for some reason. We see like all of these rooms utilized
Mhm.
like to the T every minute.
Mhm.
And I really enjoyed that they introduce all this. So that way, whenever it gets brought up again, we're kind of like, wait a minute, how big is this boat? Like, we don't
Massive.
Yeah.
It's pretty massive.
Yeah. I really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah.
Yeah. So my next one is the stealing all the stuff from Hennessy.
Oh, okay.
I
do you
did
have one?
mine before.
So my next one's when they're investigating the phantom signal. I think that's a little before.
Okay, go for it.
When they wake up at 6 a.m. and he's like, we've got these helmets and stuff, and we got this little antenna right here so we can listen to the radio while
He
we.
goes, "Dude."
Yeah, and he puts on the little beat and he's all.
It's just
Dancing.
dancing. It's like it's kind of uncomfortably long too.
Yeah.
Just sitting there like,
He's all. And he's just dancing.
yeah.
And then they're going to investigate this signal before they head to Operation Hennessy's
Yeah. Mhm.
little watchtower thing to raid it.
To jack all his stuff,
Yeah.
dude.
But I love the whole like I mean at this point we are introduced to Ned and all these other people. We find out that Ned could possibly be Steve's son,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going through all this like coral reef and like seaweed and stuff. Like, it's very beautiful looking.
Yeah.
And I gotta say the song that they play slaps. It's like you know what I'm
Dude,
talking about?
I gotta rewatch it.
I know what you're talking about, but I can't picture it.
It's when I pull it up on the start menu for the Criterion Collection disc that I have, that's the song that plays
Really?
on the play menu. Where
That's
it
cool.
shows you like the play,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
all the stuff that comes with it, the supplements and everything. It plays that song, and so the whole time I was like, so I just bobbing my head because it's catchy. It's
It is.
It's a little slapper of a song. But, while they're going through there, they show this, like, beautiful underwater footage, and all these guys are swimming around and filming and stuff. And they find out that this is where we get another one of those integrations of claymation in live action, where, like, the pufferfish and a couple of the other fish that are, like, driving around, like, swimming around in that airplane wreckage.
Mm-hmm.
And they find out that the phantom signal is from some, like, old black box. And it was, if anything, it was just a couple of scenes to like cut away from for footage and stuff like that. But one of the parts that we get in this scene that I think is very integral and very interesting is whenever Ned is speaking with Steve and he says like, "Hey, like, do you think I could call you Dad?" Like in this scene.
Okay.
And
Funny thing about that, I thought he said Dan.
no,
No, wait.
Like,
I thought the same thing too.
it's like Dan. What?
No.
But obviously, because
It's-
we go on later where he's like, I can't even call you Dad. So I was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, he said Dad.
yeah, and he's like, "Do you think I could call you Dad?"
And
in
it's because
this
of his
scene?
accent.
Yeah, it's Owen Wilson.
Yeah, it's Owen Wilson.
Dad.
But he's also like doing an accent as well. It's not
Yeah,
even-
he's supposed to be doing like a Midwestern
Yeah.
Kentucky accent. And so, he asks if he can call Steve his dad. And Steve immediately is like, "No, Like that's too personal. You
Yeah.
can't do that. Come up with something else.
What do they end up
And he's all,
calling
what
him?
about Steve Z?
Steve?
And he's all, okay, I could make that work. And then he's like, hey, Steve Z, like, look at this airplane wreckage over here. And he's like, oh, it's a good find, Ned. Let's go check it out. And they, film a scene and
Yeah.
everything.
The
And
way they talk also makes me laugh because they're like pushing. They're like,
yeah,
Oh,
they're
little,
going
like beep 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 beep.
yeah. So the whole time he's like, can I call you Dad? And they're all, no, I think that's a little too much, man. Like, it's funny.
Yeah.
And but it's a scene too where we get it. I mean, we've already been introduced to Steve's fear of being a father, but also like his hesitancy and like almost jump to like put a guard up and be like, no, I'm not your dad.
Yeah.
Just call me Steve Z. Be cute about it. I don't
Yeah.
want to be a dad. Like I don't want to have the responsibility of having that title. And it's one of those things where we're understanding that our protagonist he's a piece of trash.
He's kind of trashy, right?
He's a piece of garbage.
Okay, good. Because
And-
I did not really like him too much.
Yeah, he's unlikable
Yeah.
in every aspect, but he has so much charisma and character that you're kind of like, okay, like you're kind of garbage, but I can't do anything but like you.
Yeah.
Like because you're funny and because you have all this character about you, like I automatically have to root for you because you're obviously the lead in this movie. You're obviously the protagonist, but I enjoy that Wes Anderson takes the road of showing that the protagonist is kind of a bad guy.
Yeah, he's
And
deeply flawed.
yeah, he's got some issues, and I think that even later in the movie, as the movie progresses, he does get a very big redemption arc.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think one of the reasons why I love this movie so much is because it's very hidden. Like
It is. Oh, yeah.
Like that whole redemption arc and him being a piece of trash is very hidden in like this deadpan humor. And I hear a lot of people and a lot of criticism I heard with this movie is that, it just doesn't feel like there's a point to it. And I can pick up on the plot of this movie like very easily. They want to go kill this shark for revenge, but it's not just about that. It's about this guy realizing that he is no longer this popular filmmaker anymore. He's bottom of the barrel. This other guy, Hennessy, is better than him, and he is having trouble with fading out and being a losing his legacy essentially.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's something that gets a little swept under the rug with this movie.
Yeah, I also think losing both his best friend and his wife have really affected him as well. Whenever it comes to like his true passions,
Yeah.
right? Because you can kind of see it, and it some of the problems that he has is coming through his relationships, and that's kind of why they're being destroyed, and that's why he's not really able to connect with his quote unquote son.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we get to see that all throughout the movie, and him kind of slowly kind of break through some of those problems, and that's why the shark. I'm we'll get to the ending, but that's why I liked the ending so much.
Yeah.
Is because it was like a release of all that.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful how they did it too. But one of the relationships I want to focus on is I think his name is Alistair Hennessy.
Yeah. Alistair Hennessy.
Alistair Hennessy. So he's the kind of
He's
guy.
supposed to be the antagonist.
Yeah,
I hate him.
He's not really though.
It's Jeff Goldblum.
It's Jeff Goldblum. Yeah. So he gets introduced as his nemesis, right? He's the
Yeah.
one that's making better movies. He's richer. He's taking all the grant money. He's just better in every way than
He was also
Steve.
mentored by the same guy that
Yes.
Steve Zissou was mentored by.
And also exes of his current wife.
Yeah, his wife in the movie was previously married to Alistair Hennessy,
Yes.
but then they got divorced, and then Steve Zissou married her.
he always has some funny comebacks whenever it comes to him. But
Yeah.
they end up going to his like ultra high tech lab that is like you go down into it and it's like you get to scan. I think they're scanning for the shark, right?
Yeah, they're using some of his tracking devices and information to try to get a
Yeah,
ping on the shark.
Using is a pretty
Loose term.
Loose term.
Yeah, they use it and then they're like, "We'll just borrow it. He won't care."
Yeah. No, well, okay.
And then the guy, who's the guy that?
the guy is so funny. They call him the bank stooge or something.
Yeah, his name's like Bill or something.
I love him.
I'm trying to find him. Oh yeah, Bill.
He's all, if there's anything illegal going on, I have to tell the
report
bank.
it.
Bill, you bell.
And he's all, do what you ever got to do to cover your butt.
Yep.
And then he says, you guys ready? We're going in.
He's like, oh, they set the alarm on this place.
Yeah.
But yeah, they end up going in and using some of the equipment, and then he ends up saying like, all right, take as much as you can. We got 30 minutes before you come. And
Before the Coast Guard comes.
Yeah.
everyone just starts jacking all this stuff. They take the cappuccino machine. They take the tracking, all that stuff. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was funny.
Yeah. This is also a scene where we get introduced to a point that one of the maps
Oh,
people
yes.
make.
Yeah.
Where they say like, hey, the route that you have us charted on, it's going to take us into unprotected waters. And Steve Zissou at that point is kind of
He
like,
makes a bull
he's
crap.
like, I don't care. My route, it's only 4 inches on the map, and yours, it's about 8 or 9. It's going to take about 4 hours more to go your route. It'll take maybe an hour to go through mine.
Yeah.
And she's like, but it's unprotected.
This isn't procedure.
Like there, we need to go around the route where we'll be safe.
Yeah.
There's potential that, people could come and hurt us in unprotected waters.
Yeah.
And he's like, it doesn't matter. We'll be fine.
Yeah. That's another way of showing his kind of character.
Yeah.
Where he's more like abrasive and arrogant kind of. And it's
Yeah.
because he's trying to hold that legacy that he still has, right?
Yeah. And he is still dead set on killing that shark.
Yeah.
And
To the expense of everyone else.
yeah,
So-
it doesn't matter what everybody else is going through. He is like, I'm going to
He's
do what I
going to
said.
accomplish his goal.
Yeah, I'm going to do what I set out to do regardless of what you guys think or not.
Yeah. Which
Yeah.
obviously is not the right decision.
Yeah.
My next favorite scene is, I think it's a little bit before yours actually, Nick, is when he is in the interview with Jane.
Yeah. I like this one too.
Oh, with the killer whale in the back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. dude. Oh my
You
god.
should have pointed a gun at a pregnant woman.
I do. That's one of my problems because it literally comes out of nowhere.
You saw.
He's like,
Did you
does this
expect
look
this?
real?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does this look real? But it's
It
She's all,
makes me laugh
Is any
because
of
how
it fake? And he's all, does this look real? Freaking points a Glock at her.
completely caught me off guard, dude.
I don't know. I loved it because it shows them they're bantering with each other, and what made it was the freaking whale in the back.
Yeah.
At first you think it's just a normal whale,
Mm-hmm.
and he goes by, and he comes back,
It's all upside down.
and then he goes by upside down, and comes back, and then eventually just comes up,
And it's
and
just
then
staring.
looks at you,
Yeah.
like the whale was breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But while that's happening, I'm focusing on what Steve is saying,
Yeah.
and
It's pretty.
that's
pretty intense. Some of the questions
Yeah.
she's asking, and he's
Yeah.
always like, "Oh, we're gonna start so
So
hard like
abrasive.
this."
Yeah,
Oh,
he's
yeah.
like, I thought this was going to be a puff piece.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think it's interesting you bring that up too, because I think this is one of the scenes that, we recognize that Steve immediately thinks that everyone's out to get him.
Yeah.
Like, she's a journalist.
She's doing her job.
Exactly. She's doing her job. She has to get all sides of the story to make, a good piece. If you're going to be a good journalist, you need to get every side and tell the story from the way that you saw it, respective to both sides. And so sometimes you have to ask hard questions. And, immediately he's kind of like, why are you asking these questions? Why are you asking them like that? I thought it's supposed to be a puff piece and all
he's
this
like,
stuff.
let's start with something easy, like what's my favorite color?
Yeah.
Blue.
I was
Yeah.
like,
He's like, what's your favorite food?
sardines.
Sardines or tuna or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. It's, yeah.
But yeah, I just love that scene.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. My next one is when the pirates show up.
Yep. That's my next one as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love this.
This is like one of my favorite scenes of the whole movie.
I didn't even expect this.
No,
This
yeah.
it's a whole ride of. It's just
Yeah.
like this. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah, that's whenever I first watched this movie and this happened, I was like, where did this come from? Like, I didn't even expect this. What the heck?
Yeah.
And it immediately became one of my favorite scenes of the whole movie just because of how chaotic it is. But this is one of those scenes where, and they do this stylistically and then also, figuratively. They show us that there's a change in Steve. So previous to this point, he has, not really cared about the well-being of his crew. He has only really been selfish in this aspect and, wants to complete the mission that he set out on because he wants it, not because anybody else does. And because he decided to, go into uncharted waters or unprotected waters, there are Filipino pirates that are guarding the area, and they see this ship and they're kind of like, oh, it's far away, just leave it be, we'll be fine. He's like, hey, anyway, like Ned is on watch, he'll let us know whenever the ship's getting closer.
Well, I think even it says Kingsley, and no one kind of knew.
Yeah, no one knows who Kingsley is
Yeah.
because Steve decided to change his name. Like, because he said, like, oh yeah, if I'd known you were born, I would have named you Kingsley Zissou instead. And he's like, you could change your name if you want to. Actually, he's like,
my first or my last?
I'll stick with Ned for now. I think we'll be fine.
And it doesn't even matter. Right away, he changes it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of his fault.
Yeah.
A little bit, but
yeah, but so Ned is supposed to be on watch. He isn't on watch though. He's macking on Jane, the reporter, who is supposed to be writing this piece about Steve.
Yeah.
And while this is happening, Steve catches eye through one of his recon dolphins that follows the ship.
Oh my god!
And the camera goes into their little bunk, and he sees them, kissing and stuff. And he's just kind of like, immediately, what the heck? And he goes over there and confronts the two, and then immediately after he goes in the room, the pirates knock on the door and beat him up. They chain him to the sink, and he's immediately afterwards, Steve doesn't want to take any blame for the issue.
Immediately.
So he's like, Ned was supposed to be on watch.
He's like, you're the one who dropped the ball for us all.
Yeah.
And yet, it's not entirely Ned's fault. He's
No.
just completely deflecting the blame.
Yeah. And also, you're the captain of the ship.
Exactly.
Yeah. Ultimately, you're the boss. You have
Yeah.
to be held responsible for everything, no matter what. But, they're chained to the sink. They're being held captive by these pirates. And one of my favorite parts of the scene is whenever they're getting all taken up on top of the ship, and Bill, the banker, just happens to know Filipino.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, this guy knows Filipino. We decided we're going to take him instead because he's more useful to us. And so, he's like telling them, well, wait, say something to this. Ask them why they're doing this. And he's like, well, they want to know if there's a vault.
This is my favorite part.
And he's like, no, there's no vault. There's never been a vault. And
it cuts
like part of the documentary.
Yeah, it immediately cuts to another film that they have, and it says, our vault holds 10 other currencies from around the world. It's hidden right here.
So we're all ready.
Yeah. It said, we're all ready for any sort of event. And if we ever go into any part of the world, we have currency from there.
Yeah.
And they show like this yellow vault, and they're putting the money in it and everything. And then immediately it cuts over, and we see all these guys huddled in like a kitchen. They're just watching it, and they're like, I'm going to steal that thing.
Yeah.
And so he's immediately like, oh crap, they found the vault.
Yeah.
They, immediately they cut over, and they're carrying out the yellow vault and stuff, and they sit everybody on their knees. They're blindfolding him. They think like, oh man, we're gonna die.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna get killed by these guys. And that's when we get this shot, and I love the way they do it. They show the back of like everybody's head, and it's almost kind of like they're like praying. And they're kind of like, you hear everyone whispering like, Steve, 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 Steve.
Mm-hmm.
And while that's going on, we cut to another shot of Steve Zissou, and he's blindfolded. And then we hear this little like electric like spark, like a surge. Yeah. And then all of a sudden he's like, not on my boat, not with my crew or something. And he starts to like chew at his little bounds that he has, and breaks out and tears his blindfold off, and he says, not on my boat.
He
He takes a Glock out, takes a gun out, and just starts shooting at everyone.
Bro.
And while he's shooting, Search and Destroy by Iggy and the Stooges is just blaring.
Completely blaring. Like you don't hear any of the gunshots or anything. You just hear the music going.
Yeah, it's just the music is going, and you just see Bill Murray just with a gun just shooting at everybody.
Turns into a Call of Duty campaign.
Yeah. And he's just going guns blazing, just shooting at everybody. And while that's going on, you hear this guitar just just ripping through the speakers. It's one of my favorite scenes, and I love that. The whole time it just is this chaos, and I didn't even talk about whenever that does happen, before he decides to break out of those bounds, he like the whole look of the film is like cold and icy looking, and it's very blue.
Mm-hmm.
It looks very bleak. But then whenever he decides to break out, it suddenly gets very warm and very orange tinged. And it's almost kind of like he, warmed up in that moment and kind of grew a heart for his crew, and was kind of like, you're not going to do that to these people.
Yeah.
Like, I'm taking care of them. These are my people. And, he goes to the extreme and goes Call of Duty, like you said, and just starts blasting all these people. And like he only kills one.
He does right in his neck.
Which is funny.
Just wait until later. I
And
have a fact about that.
And it's funny too whenever we see that one of the pirates is just holding one of the interns hostage, who's Matthew Gray Gubler.
Yeah,
by
from
the way.
what's his
From
name?
Criminal Minds.
Yeah, from Criminal Minds.
And he's just he's like on his knees, blindfolded, and he has this like machete, like right here, and immediately Bill Murray's running around and he's just shooting at all these people, and then shoots this one guy in the neck. And when he shoots him, he immediately goes "Ow!" And that's the only gunshot we hear is him go pew pew.
Yeah.
And then you see Matthew Gray Gubler get chopped with this machete and just goes ah. And then there's like an explosion that happens because someone throws a grenade. And there's just a bunch more shooting, and then all these guys leave because they're scared of Steve. And it's a hilarious scene. It's a scene that's full of high adrenaline, and it's, in the context of the movie, you're kind of like,
What the?
that's insane that just happened with this. Like I would have never thought. It's funny.
Yeah, it's shot to be humorous because it's very, very not realistic.
Yeah.
And it's not supposed to be.
No.
He's sitting there. He could have gotten shot 1,000 times. And
Yeah.
there's no way one guy can take out like 50 pirates.
Yeah, there are 3 people behind him and 4 in front. Like and he's just crouched like one knee, and he's shooting a gun that never has to reload.
No, it's like a stormtrooper type aim sort of deal. But that's what makes it funny. That's what kind of gives it that character.
Yeah.
And after they all leave, he's shooting at him, and then he throws the gun at him. He launches that gun at him, and immediately
it finally runs out of ammo.
Yeah, and then immediately is like, they left their dog.
Yeah.
And it's a 3-legged dog.
Yeah, and it's all hopping around, hobbling.
That he names Cody.
Yeah.
Just randomly.
Yeah.
It's scenes like that too, where it's just like, this movie has its own unique voice.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's immediately after that too that Hennessy shows up with his crew.
Yes.
And he's just like, we're responding to your distress signal. And he's like, Steve, is that you?
Yep.
And he goes over there and he brings the dog, and that's whenever he names him Cody.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, I laughed because it's so awkward, but I was like, whatever, he goes up there and smacks the crap out of Cody because he was whining.
I know.
Like he grabs his newspaper and just goes, "What?" And smacks the crap out of him, and he says, "Be still, Cody."
Yeah, he
And
does.
then walks away. I was like, what the hell did the dog do?
Like, what the dog do? It was
What the dog doing?
What the dog doing?
Yeah, random. No, it really was, because he just straight up goes, "What?" Like, and the dog was hardly doing anything.
Yeah.
Which is, it was weird.
Hilarious.
But this is also a scene
bro
too,
moment.
where he goes, he tells them like, "Oh, your engine's busted. If you want help, you gotta sign this paper." And the damages are more than the budget of the entire film that he's doing.
Yeah.
And immediately he's like, "Well, if you want help, you gotta sign this right now." He's like, "I don't care," and it kind of blew me away because the expenses were too much.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how much it is.
We understand that
There's
Ned
a lot
has
of
an
money.
inheritance of $275,000 that he decides to sink all of it into the film.
So it has to be more than that.
Yeah.
So there's at least that much.
Yeah.
So imagine how much the repairs are.
Yeah.
And it just shows how freaking filthy rich this guy is.
Yeah, seriously.
And it's also funny too because there's a tension there with him saying, "Oh, we were on our way to find the thieves that stole all our stuff." And before he gets there, he goes, "Quick, go and cover everything that says Hennessy on it."
Yeah. I laugh too at that scene whenever he's like, when he says that and he's like, I'm looking for those crooked mother effers that stripped my sea lab or something like that. And he's like, "Oh, they're probably the same guys that did what they did in my ship." He's totally trying to pass it off. He's like, I didn't do
Henry even
anything.
says, "You know what I'm going through then."
Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that they were going to throw the body off one side, he comes up and he goes, "I'll just throw it off the other side." I was like, this is crazy, dude.
Yeah.
It's incredibly funny.
Yeah.
But the next scene I have is when Steve and Ned start fighting.
Okay.
So I enjoy this scene because it's kind of where that tension kind of comes to a head. And I think it starts with him confronting him about Jane, right?
Yeah.
Because he kind of claims her at the beginning.
Yeah,
He's
like, not this one. Not this one. But he's married.
He's married.
Yeah.
And he claims Jane and is trying, like, hits on her and flirts with her and all that stuff. Doesn't work. She doesn't like him at all.
Dude,
No.
he tried to kiss her.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so it's so embarrassing.
Yeah.
on the
hilarious.
on the hot air balloon.
Yes.
Yeah.
But she's
and then she immediately takes the drink from him and he's like, "You're gonna hit the sauce while you have a bun in the oven?" It's funny.
But we get to see that relationship she starts to build with Ned, where, you know, he'll sit in when she's reading the book. He'll, you know, they are in the sauna together, about to kiss, but they don't do it. And they obviously, like you said, sleep together. And they confront him about it. And he's like, "What did I tell you about having crewmates in your cabins? Like, that's not allowed." And he ends up saying, Ned, I think it was really powerful when he explains, like, "I'm not really your son. I'm just a person for your documentary."
Yeah.
And it kind of is powerful because
Yeah.
it's finally him saying, like, "You don't really care about me."
Yeah.
Like, he even describes his mom saying, you know, "You knew I was alive ever since I was alive."
Yep.
Like, for however many years now, and you never came to reach out, to talk to me, anything like that.
Nothing.
You could have been the father that he needed, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And it was just powerful. And then he ends up, like, walking. They all walk through the boat as they're talking about this. And they get to the very top, and like they're gonna fight.
Yeah.
And Ned says something like,
He's like, "I'm gonna hit you" or something.
Yeah, and then immediately Steve hits him.
Just goes, "What?" And he hits him in the mouth.
Yeah.
And he's all, "What was that for?" And he said, "You never announced that you're gonna hit somebody. You just do it. You
Yeah.
sucker punch him. It doesn't matter."
Yeah, and then he gets him back, and
Yeah.
it's just a funny scene between the father and son in quotes.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah. My next one is when eventually Steve and Ned make up and they go on a helicopter
Yes.
ride looking for signs of the jaguar shark. And they eventually end up crashing the helicopter because this helicopter is
Janky.
It's janky
It's
and
old.
it hasn't been serviced in months. And Ned is not a certified pilot for a helicopter. He flies planes. And so, you know, they're going around looking for stuff. And we get this really heartfelt scene where Steve he acknowledges, like,
He has
"Yeah, I knew that you were around. And, you know, I saved your note. I saved your letter that you had written to me whenever you were like 10 or 12.
That's wholesome.
And it's a callback to the original note that we get introduced to those characters with. You know, Ned introduces him and says, like, "Hey, I wrote you whenever I was really young, and you even wrote me back, and you sent me a little pen and all this stuff and everything, and a little Zissou Society members ring." And you know, we get the letter read to us in Steve Zissou's voice, and he says, like, "To answer your question, yes. And to do this, blah, 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 blah." It's very Wes Anderson. It kind of reminds me of Moonrise Kingdom or Fantastic Mr. Fox. And, you know, he's reading this letter, and we're like, it's like scrolling as we're having it read to us and all this stuff. But it's a callback to a previous letter. So now we get to answer, you know, the question that was answered in that letter. And we get to hear Owen Wilson talk like he's a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "I found this fly in the backyard of like at my mama's house, and I never seen anything like it before. I'm gonna call it a Zissou fly," and like all this stuff. And he even like grabs the fly and like pins it to the letter, and it's just this really cute moment where Steve acknowledges, like, "Hey, I knew, and I still have the letter. Like I still, you know, I recognize that." You know, I meant something to you, and I should have been there for you, and I apologize, and I want you to know that, you know, I still have this. It's something that means a lot to me. And that's when we like start to get another like little bit of redemption for Steve's character, and the fact that like he's truly starting to break down his walls and recognize that, okay, I really care about these people and I want them to know. And as soon as that happens, you know, we hear like this you know, all this stuff happening in the helicopter, and then all of a sudden, you know, Ned is kind of like, "Oh, I think the rotor pin might have went out," and all this stuff, and then we hear like a boom, dink, and we see the helicopter start to fall to the water. And the way that they show it is really cool. It's like the camera is like on top of my legs, and you just see the legs and the shoes and the bottom of the helicopter, like that glass pane, and then it's just falling just into the ocean. And as soon as it makes contact, we don't get this glorious like typical Hollywood like explosion.
Michael Bay explosion.
Yeah,
Exactly.
no way.
Like we it's inferred, right? We immediately as they hit, it like cuts to like this like 5-10 second sequence of like random cuts to like flashes of color and bubbles underwater and stuff and everything. And it's something that like is almost kind of like an assault, like on your eyes at first. Because when I watched it,
random red scene, like a red.
Yeah, it's like a
still.
red screen, like a white screen, and then bubbles
all the way
and
through.
this
Yeah,
stuff. Like,
yeah.
And whenever I first watched it, I remember being like,
Whoa.
what was that? And then all of a sudden, you know, they're in the water and they're kind of like, you know, there's fire on top of the ocean. And there's like an inflatable that Ned's hanging on and he's bleeding and all this stuff. And he's kind of like, man, I think if I did this maneuver, we would have crashed a little softer. And all this stuff. And we, you know, recognize that this man's hurt.
Yeah.
And now they're stranded in the middle of the ocean. They need to try to find a way to get out. And that's where Steve kind of becomes more and more of this fatherly figure. He decides to like, I need to take care of this kid. I need to get him to safety. They end up swimming to shore, and they, you know, he picks him up and is trying to revive him. And then eventually we find out that Ned passes away because of the crash, which is a huge bro moment.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
Only because I thought that his redemption was going to be him reconnecting with his son and having a strong relationship. And that is not what happens. I mean, it kind of happens, but like a little too late. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is definitely what blew me away.
Yeah.
The favorite scene I had though is a little bit before that, and it's the whole. So they find out where the banker dude is kidnapped. And they end up going, and it's like this like old abandoned hotel on a random island somewhere. And they go there, and it's a whole mission. He has a whole team all glocked up. You know, they got all their suits on, and they go through, and it's like completely empty.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh shoot, okay, let's go." And they go. I'm trying to think of how it connects here, because they go through, and then Steve he sees Cody looking through a doorway, right?
Yeah.
And he goes and he walks through, and then all of a sudden you see
all the pirates and Hennessy playing cards.
Yeah, and Hennessy goes, "Oh, are you here to save me?" And he goes, yeah. Like completely random.
All the pirates just go, "Bah!" Just start shooting at him. They shoot Hennessy, and then they just immediately start shooting.
They do shoot Hennessy.
Yeah, they shoot him in the stomach, like right here, and he just goes, "Oh!" And like
it falls off.
back, and then they all start shooting at Steve.
And it's one of those high octane moments where just everybody's shooting, and even before that too, that's when they use the dynamite to blow through it all. And it was funny to see that, and you know them getting through it all, running all the way to the boat, and he's like, "Oh, make sure you destroy that boat before they go, because that's their getaway boat."
Yeah.
And they're about to shoot that little kid too. And he's like,
"Wait, that's my friend.
That's my friend. He's the one who helped me."
Yeah.
Just kind of a good send off to that whole, you know, arc of getting them back and getting back on track to finding this shark.
Yeah.
I think it was perfect.
Yeah, most definitely.
Good.
Well, do you have another one? Or?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, my next one after that is finding the jaguar shark.
Yeah, that's my last one as well.
So I really love how they reveal the shark and the descent into the shark.
Too. I love it. It's so satisfying.
Yeah, I love the whole descent into the trench, and it's at this point beforehand, you know, everyone's on the Belafonte. They're all kind of gathering and making amends with one another. Mm-hmm. Like Steve is making amends with Hennessy. And he says something like, he's like, "We've never made good husbands," or something like that. And he's like, "Oh, well, I have somewhat of an excuse. I'm part gay."
Yeah. I was shook. He's like, they say that we all have some in us or something like that.
He's all, "Supposedly we all are somewhat." And he's all, "Okay." And they hug each other, and he's kind of like,
"Yeah, they kind
I'm
of
going to go over here." And they, you know, part ways. And, you know, he eventually is like making amends with everybody that he's had conflict with, and is recognizing like, okay, maybe I have been the source of all the problems in my life. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I am not, you know, I'm putting blame on everybody else when in reality it's me causing that stuff.
Yeah.
And this is when we really get to like this sort of big redemption for him. And something that happens, it occurs throughout the movie is the electricity goes out like a lot on the Belafonte. It's, you know, faulty wiring or something. And, you know, previously it happens like 4 or 5 times until the last time whenever Steve decides that he's going to fix it by himself. And it happens. I'll kind of give a little preface to what happened, you know, it happening beforehand. So I believe on the ship when they're having the party in the beginning of the film, it all goes out and then it comes back on.
Does it a whole bunch of times.
And then there's another scene where the crew is working on it, and, you know, Steve is sitting down, he's not paying attention to it, and it goes off and then comes back on, and Steve's not even phased. You know, it kind of calls back to like Steve kind of like suppressing his problems and making other people solve them for him, right? And I really like the writing in that aspect, and like Wes Anderson chooses to have this thing continue to occur and to like not address it really, or to like just kind of think like, oh, it's just a gag. And I really enjoy that this is kind of like it stops happening whenever Steve decides to stop running away from his problems, to face them head on, to go ask everybody, hey, confront this jaguar shark with me and help me face my fear and face my problem, you know, my issues that I'm having here in life. And he, you know, comes back into the room, he, you know, turns back to everybody, and he fixes the lights. He takes the initiative to fix the problem. Yeah. And that's whenever it's truly fixed. That's when that end gets tied up right then and there.
For sure.
And then we go into it's called the Deep Search. It used to be called the Jacqueline, but he crossed it out and put Deep Search.
I imagine people getting that tattoo right there.
Yeah. And so they go.
Didn't he say that was his ex-wife's name?
Yeah. And he said, and she cheated on me or something like that. So then he X'd it out and then put Deep Search on his arm and then on the submarine. And you know, the submarine is diving and it's going into this trench, and it's a beautiful shot with all these like, you know, claymation creatures and, you know, eccentric fish and creatures and stuff that, you know, are obviously not real but are created for this movie. And we see one of the research turtles, Hennessy's research turtle. He's like, hey, that one survived. You know, it's flying all around, and we get to the point where, you know, the submarine hits the ocean floor. Yeah. It hits the trench floor, and they're kind of just sitting there. They turn off all the lights.
You see the fish come, right?
Yeah, we see all the fluorescent snapper that have been occurring throughout the film. And then all of a sudden, we see like in this very small, like, it's almost like a little red light, like at the, you know, back of the screen almost. Yeah. It starts to approach, and we see this spots and all this stuff, and then we see these teeth and all of this, and, you know, this big jaguar shark comes up and goes over the submarine. You know, while it's going over the submarine, this beautiful song is playing.
It's incredible.
And I believe it's by Sigur Ró, who is like an alternative band, I think, out of the Netherlands or something like that, or somewhere around that area. But it's this gorgeous, like symphony of strings and synths and pianos and stuff and everything. And it's this big reveal for this jaguar shark that we have been building up to this entire moment, and
kind of almost forgot about it at this point, right?
Yeah, like it's almost kind of like it's been like a thing of myth. Yeah. Like it's like it was just like a symbol. We didn't even know if it was real or not. Yeah. And all these people experience this thing, and
I love it.
Yeah,
so this is probably one of the most powerful scenes too.
Yeah, and I love that, you know, he's so like he's dumbfounded that he actually found it, and it's just kind of like, okay, like I either now have my shot to take revenge on this thing, or I have the chance to let this live. And to, you know, bury the past and to move on from everything that I've done up until this point. And he chooses to bury it. And, you know, it's funny the way that they decide to go about it. It's kind of like a little like punch in the side, and, you know, kind of trying to make fun of the situation where he's like, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to kill it? And he says, no, we ran out of dynamite. And he says, oh, I don't know. I wonder if he remembers me. Yeah. And he just kind of looks at it and starts to kind of tear up a little bit.
He does. He kind of like you know, starts to kind of cry a little bit.
Yeah, he starts to confront all of the issues that he's been having and all these problems, and recognizing that he's the issue, and starts to break down, and everybody just kind of like puts a hand on him. And it's this really soft and tender moment where everybody is just kind of like, hey, like, we're here for you, and we're glad that you're seeing it now, you know. And yeah, it's a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
And
then he even
I
goes,
really enjoy that.
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Like he's able to put away his revenge and see the beauty in it,
Yeah.
which I think is really powerful.
Yeah, and I also love that he's able to get back to what he originally loved to do.
Exactly.
Like he started this whole thing out because he loved to explore and to document and to just be in the ocean. And he had the chance to document and see a completely new creature, and he was able to put his bias aside and the thing that he really wanted, and he was able to step back and be like, actually, this is something that is beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's something that should have life.
Yeah. And they do it too because we get a scene where they're watching some of the old documentaries that they made together, and the whole crew's watching it, and it ends and they go, this is what it used to be like. Like that's what we're striving towards, and because of his problems we can't be there.
Yeah.
He's the leader and he's not leading us in a direction that this produced.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of that he realizes that and is able to change it to where he can get back to the spark that you were talking about early on.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably one of the more satisfying ways to end this film.
Yeah, and then that goes to the ending of, which is my last favorite scene, which is when we don't even get to see the second part of the jaguar shark film.
I don't think they were filming down there, were they?
No, they weren't.
Yeah,
it was just kind of them just experiencing it.
Yeah.
And no, they were. Vikram was
Well, he
filming.
was back there?
He had a camera.
Oh,
I
okay.
remember.
Okay.
He was sitting in the back, and
I think it's because he was scared.
I don't know.
But they, we don't get to see the film. We just see Bill Murray outside, and he's got an award that originally Hennessy had in the beginning of the film. So we obviously understand that he won some type of award. And then whenever the film finishes, we just hear this applause and being like, "Oh yeah, that was great." And
but he's not sitting at his chair.
Yeah, he's not sitting in his chair. He's sitting
Yes.
outside,
Yes.
and we hear everything happening from outside.
Yes.
So we automatically assume that this guy, it was a success. Like, everyone loved this new film because Steve was able to, get past everything that he has been building up on, and that's been causing his legacy to fade.
Yeah.
And now he's sort of had this resurgence, and as he's back on top again. And I love those last lines where he says, like, "This is an adventure," and then Werner comes up and I forget what he does. He
passes him
he gives him the
ring.
Zissou Society ring,
Yeah.
which is a very sweet moment.
Yeah.
And, he puts it on. They kind of look at each other, and then all these people start coming out to try to congratulate Steve.
put him
and
on his
he just grabs Werner, puts him on his shoulders, and then starts walking out to. It's called Queen B Word is the song title name by David Bowie.
Yeah. David Bowie's all throughout this film, man.
Yeah, which is something I love.
I do
That's
too.
another reason why I love this film.
When we
is
get
the
to
music.
when we get to what did work, that I freaking love it.
Yeah, but David Bowie's playing in the background, and while he's walking, the credits are rolling.
Yeah.
And I love that the credits roll while everyone's walking, and they're getting reintroduced as the credits are coming up and stuff, and they all get on the Belafonte. They start to do all this stuff and everything, and that's the end of the movie.
Yep.
After that is when the credits are done.
Yeah. Pretty victorious ending right there.
Yeah, and I really enjoy it. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that you guys got to watch it for the first time.
Yeah.
So let's get into some best quotes now.
Okay.
So my first immediate best quote is on the gunfight scene on the ship whenever they're all getting taken up top, and we see a guy that's holding, it looks like a Spaz 12 to some some intern's head.
He puts
He's
his
just holding it, and Steve puts his hand in between and says, "Don't point that gun at him. He's an unpaid intern." It's just
What's your hand gonna do?
yeah, it's
Nothing.
small, witty comedy like that. That's this entire movie,
Yeah.
and it's hilarious.
Yeah, one of the first quotes that had me belly laughing is because it's just so random. It's when they go to the hotel and they're going through the swamp, the water, and he stops
Swamp leeches.
Yeah, he goes, "Oh crap, swamp leeches! Everybody, check for swamp leeches!" and pull them off. And you see him on his forehead and his body, and he goes, "Nobody else got hit. I'm the only one. What's the deal?" And it killed me, man.
It's so funny.
His delivery with it, it's perfect.
Yeah, it's funny too because they cut away and the whole crew's kind of
And they're all clean. It's just him.
good. He's all, "What's the deal, man?"
Yeah,
Just starts taking them off. It's So funny.
Yeah, it's very funny.
Good. I don't have any quotes.
Okay. My next one is it's whenever it's when they're taking that vault away, the pirates are.
Oh.
And it's no, it's not. It's whenever they recover the vault.
Okay.
Oh, and
They
they
open it up and they're like, it looks like we might have recovered your inheritance. And they open it up and there's just a big hole in the back. And he's like, that's it. I quit.
or like I'm retiring or something like that.
Yeah, it's super funny.
Yeah. There's so many funny ones. The other one I have is when the pirates come, and they take him away, and he goes, please don't hurt him, talking about Ned. And then after he takes him out, he goes, I'm gonna kill you for that a-hole. I'm gonna hit you so hard you'll be blind. It's just funny quotes like that.
Yeah. My last one here is obviously one of the first quotes that we said at the beginning of the film. Is a woman asks Steve a question about why he's going to hunt the shark. And she says, that's an endangered species at most. What would be the scientific purpose of killing it? And Steve Zissou responds with, revenge.
Yep.
That's a good scientific reason.
Batman reason right there.
Yeah. But that's it for best quote for me.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get into bro moments then. What was your guys' first bro moment?
My first one, it's kind of dumb, but it's...
I just read what it's...
Mine is right after the show in the theater, in the beginning of the movie. This old man comes up to him trying to get him to sign all
And this.
and this.
And
And
this.
then, but it's like, this is like a formal theater. And then you see him walking away, and this man straight up is wearing like slacks up top and everything, and then pajamas.
Yeah, he's wearing some plaid pants.
And I was like, bro, what are you wearing?
It's funny too, where he's like, just forge the rest. You got enough.
Yeah.
And he's all, but it wouldn't be the same. You have to sign it. And he said, I'm not signing it.
And he just
There's
shoots him- and
so
shoots
many,
him away.
dude.
It's like a stack, a good stack.
And he just
It's
goes...
funny.
And I think, what does he write?
Zissou.
He just writes his signature.
Yeah, Zissou.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it, for some reason, I thought it said Tim.
Tim, no, it was Zissou. You could definitely tell. The first bro moment I had was when he pulls out the Zissou Adidas.
Dude, those are
He
nice.
said, we lost our sponsor, but I still have a couple pairs.
They're
saved
kind of
up."
nice though,
They're
right?
kinda
Yeah,
nice.
they are. They're sick.
And he starts doing that whole
He's
like,
all stretching.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was dying at that.
Yeah, that is hilarious. My first bro moment is when we find out that Ned is Steve's son.
Yeah, that was my next one.
That's
Okay.
pretty big.
Yeah, it's immediate. And the way they do it, too, he's just kind of like, you knew my mother. And he's all, I did, didn't I? And he's all, yeah, she said that you guys did. And he said, is this the part where you tell me that you're my son or something like that? And it's just kind of like very, like, there's no big reveal. Like, it's just a matter of fact. Like,
I'm your son.
yeah.
Yeah, or hearing how she died. That's kind
Yeah,
of
and
a bro
he's like,
moment too.
oh, yeah, she killed herself. She took a bunch of sleeping pills.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. It's a big bro moment, for sure.
My next one is when they get to the island, and the first thing that Zissou's wife says, the cat died.
Yeah.
He's all, can't you find a nicer
No,
way
she
to
said-
say it?
she
And
says-
he was like, how? And she goes, rattlesnake bit its neck.
Yeah,
Like, straight
rattlesnake
up.
bit it in the throat. And he goes, God damn, Eleanor. He says, Eleanor, why do you have to say it like that? You couldn't try to break it up a little nicer.
Straight up just, I don't know how I feel about her.
Yeah.
She's the brains.
Yeah, she's the brains.
And he's the Zissou.
Yeah. I love how his cat's named Marmalade.
Marmalade.
That's a
Yeah.
very, very cute name.
I agree.
It makes me think that it's an orange cat.
Yeah, most likely. My next one is when we find out that Steve heard of Ned 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And Steve has that quote where Ned asks him, like, why did you found out, if you knew I was alive 5 years ago, why didn't you contact me?
Mm-hmm.
And he says, because I hated fathers and I hated the idea of being one.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's just, man, there's just that deep-rooted, like, insecurity and all these issues that this guy has that he's just been trying to bury for so long that he finally gets to unpack and let go of the burden throughout the process of this film. It's very rough.
Yeah, my next bro moment is when Steve falls down the stairs. Remember that scene?
Yeah.
So random.
Yeah.
But I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
My next one was Steve catching Ned with the reporter.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a bro moment.
Because, like you said, Steve claims her
Yeah.
like it's like right off the bat, and Ned seen them. And Ned even tells her, like, Steve has a thing for you.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think it's just uncomfortable.
Yeah, my next bro moment, and this is my last one, we've talked about the other ones, is when Klaus smacks the crap out of Ned.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, you think like, just because you think you're Steve's son, that you could just come in here and do whatever you want?" And he's all, "You can't do anything you want.
Mm-hmm.
I run the ship around here too."
And then he even goes, or Ned goes, Klaus, if you hit me one more time, I'm gonna kick your gosh teeth. in."
Yeah, and he just kind of is all
Yeah,
walks
that-
away, like doesn't answer him.
It's the Green Goblin right there, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, my last one is just Ned dying. I put a
Yeah.
lot of question marks because I did not expect that
Yeah.
to happen at
That
all.
was my last one.
all right. Well, if that's it for the bro moments, let's get into some facts.
All right, I'm going to hit you with the budget.
Okay.
And I'm assuming, Isaiah, you already saw it, right?
Yes, I did.
So, Nick, this is news to you. It was $50 million to make this movie.
Yeah, the Belafonte, expensive.
Opening weekend, it made $113,000.
Yikes.
And then gross in U.S. and Canada made $24 million.
Okay.
And gross worldwide only made $34.8 million.
Wow. I wonder why it didn't recoup.
So I'm thinking that I was just thinking the times.
What movies came out in
It came out in 2004.
There's plenty of good ones.
Yeah, there are some big movies that came out that year, and I just don't think it was a good time for like indie cinema. You know,
Yeah.
like a smaller known film who we don't know much about the director. He's only really ever done 2 other films besides this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. And it's kind of like an artsy film. At the time, I think that this was a very niche movie. And if you knew about it at the time, it was because you were like
knew,
like hipster.
Yeah.
Like you were coming up at the same time as this movie, and
Oh, I
like
see.
you were the guy that was like, "Oh, I watched this in theaters before it was cool."
Well, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, my question is, especially with some of his newer releases, like I'm thinking of The French Dispatch.
Yeah.
They kind of are selective to certain theaters. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? They weren't really widespread. So I'm wondering if that was also an issue too.
Yeah,
That might be
it
it.
could be. I know for a while too, like the French Dispatch wasn't playing in the Central Valley for what felt like forever.
I know. I was
And-
waiting for it.
Yeah, and then whenever it finally did get released, it was like it's here for 5 or 6 days. You have the chance to see it this week.
Yeah. What the heck is that all about?
Or you don't have the chance to see it
Yeah,
at
and
all.
you gotta buy it on DVD or
Yeah.
rent it, but it's not the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I could definitely see that hindering some of the financial situation.
yeah, most definitely.
So the movies that it came out with some heavy hitters: Napoleon Dynamite,
Ooh.
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind,
Oh yeah.
The Notebook, Shrek 2, White Chicks, Incredibles, the SpongeBob, the SpongeBob
Incredibles probably
SquarePants
steamroll.
movie.
The movie.
Bro, Dodgeball.
Mhm.
It's another Ben Stiller movie, and it has
Yeah.
Vince Vaughn. That's my childhood.
And then
Dodgeball's
the
hilarious.
goat,
Dodgeball's hilarious.
If you could
dude.
dodge a wrench, you could dodge a ball.
the goat of them all, Shrek 2.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it came out with some heavy hitters.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
this is so distinct
yeah,
with all that. So
yeah.
yeah.
You said one of them. Napoleon Dynamite.
Mhm.
I remember Napoleon Dynamite taking the world by storm.
Really.
I remember you dressing up as Napoleon Dynamite for Halloween one year.
Yeah, that was like 2017 or something, 2016 maybe.
Bro,
It was fun, man. I love Napoleon Dynamite.
the
It's one of-
budget for this is insane. I'm just reading
For
it.
Napoleon Dynamite?
Yeah.
Oh, it's low budget. It's low budget, and it made a ton of money.
You could tell.
Guess.
I mean, okay, budget. You say low,
yeah.
It's low budget.
so not in the millions.
I think like it's like 100,000.
I was gonna say 500,000.
400,000, and it made box office $46.1 million.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. When this movie, it took the world by storm. Like, I remember
insane.
I remember at the Scholastic Book Fair at Fairmead Elementary after seeing Napoleon Dynamite, I was obsessed with it as a kid.
Did they have the whole
And
vote for Pedro?
I wanted that shirt.
I
remember,
still want that shirt,
I,
though.
I have it. I have a Vote for Pedro shirt from my costume when I dressed up as Napoleon.
Put tater tots in your pockets.
Yeah, like I loved this movie. I was obsessed with it when it came out. And like I remember going to the book fair. They had like a whole like Napoleon Dynamite activity book
No way.
and all this stuff. And it was like learn how to draw a liger. like
a
what
liger.
like what quotes who said this quote and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like it was a whole thing, and I remember buying it and me and this kid in class doing it together, and it was just like we weren't even really good friends. Like we just we watched the movie and we were like, oh yeah I remember this part. Like it took the world by storm.
Okay.
It's crazy.
Definitely
crazy.
overshadowed this one then, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it had to.
Yeah.
Like, and then Mean Girls came out. Then Spider-Man 2 came out in 2004.
Wow, what a
Yeah.
that's tough too. It's not only making a good movie, but it's also finding a good place to release it.
Exactly.
And it's the same way with games as well. It's everything is just such a such a Jenga
Yeah.
of well, it comes here, but oh hold on, you got another big release coming here, and
Bro. Before Sunset,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
That's what I'm saying. There's a lot
Lemony
of
Snicket's Series of Fortune Events,
yeah.
Scooby-Doo, 51st Dates.
Well, okay, so we're talking about this movie being in 2004. I have another factor that kind of dates it as well. So, epic rap battles of history. If you remember, released a rap battle between Jacques Cousteau and Steve Irwin. And in one of Cousteau's flex bars, he references Life Aquatic, saying, "I'm so cool, Bill Murray played me in the movie."
That's pretty funny.
That's pretty cool.
That's old.
Dude, I
So old,
I
dude.
forgot about epic rap battles of history, man.
I remember.
I used to watch those like religiously.
Dude,
Me
Me
too.
too.
I would learn the lyrics.
Dude,
No.
If you brought up the Abe Lincoln one,
I loved like the Darth Vader ones.
yes, yeah.
Like I thought those
No.
were hilarious. I
No,
thought the Abe
Master
Lincoln one was
Chief.
hilarious.
oh yeah.
The Master Chief one was the go-to
There was
one.
a Cleopatra one I thought was
Oh, and
hilarious.
I think it's with Katy Perry, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
something like that. Like
They get kind of like
raunchy.
they do. They get raunchy.
Yeah, like
I don't know.
man, what are those guys doing now,
I
man?
have
They're
no-
probably still making that stuff,
Yeah,
which
probably.
is crazy. But
But
yeah.
yeah,
I remember watching that stuff in welding, like in welding class.
The
shop
last
class.
one that they uploaded was December 28th, 18 of 2021. It's John Wick, John Rambo, and John McClane.
Oh, the Johns. Wow.
Battle of the Johns.
Yeah. So I thought I would start with that.
crazy.
The Signs, 2004.
Yeah. So in reference to Jacques Cousteau, the whole get up and everything with the red caps and the uniforms and everything was actually a really big homage to his whole crew. Like on the film The Silent World that he makes, they all are dressed in those red caps. They have the blue outfits and all that stuff. So it's like a direct inspiration to the whole costume design
Yeah.
for the Life Aquatic.
I imagine that being super rewarding if you had known about the documentary first and seen like, oh, I know where that's from. That's
Yeah.
so sick.
Yeah.
But for me, I was like, this is all new to me. All
Yeah.
new to me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
So,
funny.
so you saw obviously how big the Jaguar shark was. The Jaguar shark is actually still one of the largest stop motion puppets ever constructed. It measured 8 feet in length and required 5 hand crank controls from the swimming actions. For the swimming
Wow.
actions, excuse me.
Jeez.
That's cool.
That's pretty cool.
That's something I really respect about
That's commitment.
Wes Anderson
Yeah.
is the commitment to do things physically.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It would have been so easy to do CGI.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But
Oh yeah.
it would have cheapened it
Yeah,
so
it-
much, and it would have looked bad.
When you watch his movies, you think, oh, that's probably hard to make.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that looks really difficult to
Yeah.
make.
Like
Well, I just feel like almost every claymation thing is anybody who can do claymation style.
Gosh, you gotta have some
I get it.
patience.
I give
Yeah.
you props for that.
I immediately think of this behind the scenes
And it's just like,
clip of
Dude, it's just
of the sushi making scene in the Isle of Dogs. It took like just that little sequence alone of them making the sushi took like 4 days or like something
No
crazy
way.
like that.
and that's just one. Like,
It's
10
frame by
second
frame,
scene.
like
yeah.
frame by frame, and it's maybe a minute. Like, so like imagine the patience for that. But I'd also seen this behind the scenes footage of the making of some of the shots of the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Oh.
And like a lot of the shots are like they use miniatures for the
Mhm.
entire city, and they will like CGI like people into the miniatures, and we see like I'll have to pull it up after and show you guys exactly what I'm talking about, but it's just insane the attention to detail that this guy has and the commitment that he has to be able to be like, no, like we have to do it this way in order for it to look correct.
Yeah.
And that's something that I really admire. I don't know, I don't want to get on this train of like gushing over Wes Anderson, but
We've done that.
he's just like I really admire him in the fact that like he's able to execute everything that he sees And anytime he makes a movie, he's like, that's exactly what I wanted every single time.
Yeah,
He executes it and more,
Yeah.
for sure.
so to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of authenticity, during filming, Bill Murray became a certified diver, logging over 40 hours.
Bruh.
That's wild. I think it'd be cool to be a
That's
diver.
commitment.
I would too. Yeah,
Dude.
I would.
I see diving and then knock on me all you want, but I watch these stupid Facebook videos of like diving and they find like
Sharks. And,
no, they find like
Oh, like
phones and
iPhones.
stones,
Yeah, I've
and,
seen
like,
people. Yeah,
dude, I want to do that,
Yeah.
it does look fun though. I've always wanted to put on scuba gear and
Yeah.
even
go-
just to try it out.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So the guy that plays all the guitar in the movie, his
Yes.
name is Sal Jorge, I believe.
Okay.
He's Brazilian, and he's the guy that we said played the guitar. His character's name is Pele.
Beautiful.
And dude, he's an amazing guitar player, and he's got a beautiful voice.
I loved it.
But he actually translated all of the David Bowie songs into Portuguese and then arranged them for guitar himself.
That's good.
So all of the songs that he does renditions of, they're all his own renditions, and then he even translated every single word.
Yeah, that's one of the things that worked so well for me.
Yeah, I love the little scenes that they put in of him like singing in the background, or him like specifically like performing a song,
Or
or
him all the way at the top of the boat.
yeah, you
doing
hear
it.
him playing this beautiful David Bowie renditions. It's
Yeah.
awesome. I love it.
So my last fact that I have, which is you're gonna be like, no way, is actually there's a body count,
Yeah, I had read that actually.
which is 26.
Yeah, 26 people die in this
That's
movie.
crazy.
Yeah,
With
Where?
how many bullets being shot?
yeah.
Where the only person I saw die was Ned.
Well, what about the pirate?
2.
And then
Has to be at the hotel scene.
yeah,
right?
yeah, gotta be. I mean,
I
they
don't
couldn't
know.
survive that explosion.
Yeah.
But yeah, another interesting thing actually about the music, they, the producers of this film, I believe it was Touchstone Pictures. Touchstone Pictures released a whole vinyl and record of Sal Jorge performing all of his covers of all the David Bowie songs. You can stream it right now.
That'd be
Really?
pretty cool.
Yeah, I was listening to it today.
Wow.
Yeah, on my way to work, I was listening to him do his rendition of Starman and Space Oddity and all these classic David Bowie songs and like this like samba,
It's beautiful.
Brazilian style classic guitar. It's
All in Portuguese.
yep,
Yeah.
yeah,
that's
it's
awesome.
beautiful. Love it.
The last fact I have here is the cross section of the Belafonte, where we see all of the rooms that you were talking about. One of your favorite scenes, AB. It was 140 feet long and 40 feet high.
Yeah,
So I didn't know it was actually
it,
practical.
it's real.
I
Like
did
that,
Wait,
not know
so
that.
that
That
they
is-
made that.
Yeah.
that whole cross section is a real set piece.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Like people were standing in that. That is real. It is
That's
something that was made.
I did not know that. And it blew me away.
144 feet?
140 feet long and 40 feet high.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think. How long is that? 140 feet.
Pretty long. man.
140. Yeah, it's long. It's long for sure.
I was thinking about it too. The Criterion Collection, doesn't it come with a booklet
Mm-hmm.
and you can unwrap it and it has the boat, right?
Yeah, I think so. I believe so. I'll have to get it out and let you
And
guys
Yeah, I
see
want
it.
to see it.
It's pretty sweet.
My last one here. This one I found very interesting. So while being fitted for her pregnancy prosthetic, which involved being wrapped in a full body cast, Kate Blanchett, who plays Jane, ended up fainting because of the cast.
What the heck?
She was rather surprised by this, as she had never fainted before, and learned in the next few days that she was actually pregnant. And then whenever Wes Anderson learned that Kate Blanchett was actually pregnant on set, and if she was actually pregnant for the movie, they decided not to go with the prosthetic. And he had said that jokingly he'd accused her of taking method acting to the next level.
Too far.
Yeah.
She's like, oh well, my character's supposed to be pregnant, so
I'm going to get
Yeah.
pregnant.
let's do it.
Yeah. And so he jokingly made
Yeah.
like, you're taking this too far. You're method acting way too much.
Yeah.
Like,
Imagine, dude.
Man, I had even heard a fact too where, like, because she shows up when they're on the beach and they get to see all those jellyfish.
yeah.
And I had read the fact that like no one had even met her before that scene.
No.
So whenever she got there, it was like a really realistic of like,
Complete improvisation.
what are you doing here? You know what I mean? It felt very genuine like
Mhm.
that. So yeah, she was deep into her role,
Yeah.
which is cool.
Yeah, most definitely. All right. If that's it for the facts, what didn't work for you guys?
The first thing that I wrote down, and you guys might not agree with me, but what is happening?
Technical difficulties or
Yes,
what?
No, I couldn't keep track of what was happening.
Okay. I think I can agree with you.
It's crazy.
And I found myself wanting to pause it and rewind it so much because I was like, wait, what's happening now? Like, I think it just jumped around a lot
Okay.
and
That
a little bit too much for me.
Okay. That may also be like maybe some of the jokes or something like that is just kind of like going over your head. Because
It
I feel
probably
like,
is.
Because I feel like and this is a lot. I feel like this a lot with Wes Anderson films. If you aren't paying attention to everything that's being said, and sometimes it's hard to pay attention to what people are saying because of the way they say things, you get lost.
Yeah.
And I think I'll kind of play off of what you said here a bit. I think the pacing in this movie drags a bit in certain areas. Like, I kind of almost wish that there were scenes that were kind of trimmed. Like, it doesn't necessarily make sense to have, like, I don't want to say fat, but like if you could trim the fat and, condense this movie down to, instead of 2 hours, making it, an hour 45 or an hour 55, I feel like it would benefit from that. But again, that's just something that I notice. Like, I can tell that there are certain parts of the film where I'm kind of like, okay, this is slowing down a bit. Like, I wish that it would keep the momentum that it's built up to this point.
Yeah. One thing for me was, so I had written down here that I think that the theme is like simultaneously really easy and really difficult to understand. Only because like on the surface level, I can definitely understand it's like Steve Zissou and it's about his, like all the stuff that we were talking about, his inner turmoil with literally every problem in his life and how that permeates through all of his relationships. The thing I had a really hard time was the thematic motifs that they used to show the themes throughout the film completely went over my head. A lot of them did. Like, I had no idea why the light was flickering on and off until we had talked about it, until I watched that video that explained it to me, and afterwards I was like, oh, that makes sense. But like during the film I was like, dude,
is this just like a joke? It's a gag.
It's a gag, and it's also too like there's just so much to keep track of that. And it's actually a good thing because I wanted to, like, I would focus so heavily on the characters and all of their motivations that I kind of lost out on some of the themes and some of the other stuff they brought to Zissou. I kind of just cared about them and what their motive was. But some of it was really difficult for me to keep a track of. Like, there's one scene where he's talking to his son, or, they're in that conversation where he's like, oh, you're my son, whatever. And he goes, hold on a second. And he goes, and it's just a random scene. He walks.
Yeah,
he
it's
stops,
playing Life on Mars.
Yeah, and smokes, and then comes back. Like nothing even changed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I don't get it. I don't get it yet.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that could be changed during a rewatch. But it was just scenes like that where I was like, dude, I want to understand and I can't.
Yeah. The only other thing that doesn't work for me, and I think this will play into a little bit of what you were talking about, is there can be some weird editing choices if you aren't like reading into the film heavily.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of plays into what you're talking about, and like you don't necessarily understand things or see things as they were meant to be on the first watch, or if you're not like really like reading into everything that's being shown on screen.
Yeah, for sure.
Then it's something that just doesn't make sense to you. And I think that can be a little bit of a downer for the film because most people, whenever you go to watch a movie, aren't going to be like, oh, now see, he used a butterfly because that means that's a sign of metamorphosis and he's going to go through this change and blah, 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 and all this stuff. Like no one's watching movies like that all of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was a little too vague.
Yeah.
So.
Well, if that's it for what did work. Oh, you got one more?
I did.
Okay.
And I said this in the beginning. I was like, I expected something because I saw something. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
You're playing the comparison game.
Yeah, so I found myself comparing.
Oh, there's a...
Because I loved Mr. Fantastic Fox. I thought I understood it pretty well. I laughed a lot. So I was like, okay, it's going to be almost the same. Or if not, better.
Yes. I immediately think of a quote that says, comparison is the thief of joy.
I was about to say that.
Continue. He's looking at me like...
Bruh. I didn't laugh. I laughed at certain parts. Don't get me wrong, I did, but I expected to laugh so much more, and I didn't. And maybe it's because I lost track. Maybe it's like you said, the jokes just went over my head. So I expected this movie to be a little bit funnier than it was to me, but it wasn't. So it just didn't hit right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if that's it for what did work, then what did work?
What did work? I immediately want to start with the soundtrack. I
Yep.
loved this dude and his renditions in Portuguese. I thought they fit the film perfectly.
Yeah.
And I loved how he was like candidly at random places. You know, I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, I love the music used with the Portuguese renditions of David Bowie's music. If you put David Bowie anything in a movie, I'm hooked.
Yeah.
Like I think my actual first exposure to David Bowie's music, I think, was through Chronicle.
What song is in that?
Chronicle.
I love this
They play
movie.
Ziggy Stardust
Oh, they do?
in Chronicle, and it's that scene whenever he's like controlling the camera and making it float in his room, and it's I remember specifically hearing spiders from Mars, something something, and they do the whole Ziggy Stardust. And, you know, right before he's about to go into the chorus, it's like, so where were the spiders? And then it cuts, and he like goes and robs those guys. Remember, like in the apartment complex, he like robs those fools,
I'm trying to even.
and he's making the camera like float while he's doing it.
I remember him like robbing a gas station. Is that before that?
He like robs those guys in the firefighter suit.
Yeah. Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it like plays that song right before he goes to rob them.
This
And I
movie's
remember-
crazy.
I remember watching that and being like, what was that song though? That song kind of slapped. And I found out who David Bowie was because of that.
Because of
And-
Chronicle?
Yeah.
What a
because-
movie, man.
Yeah, and my love for David Bowie like bloomed ever since then. And you know, when I watched this for the first time, I immediately was like, these are all David Bowie songs this guy's singing. Like, it was great. And I also love the use of like old classic rock, like and you know, old like proto punk, like you know, Iggy and the Stooges, and you know, even like, you know, alternative music like Sigour Rue that gets used in the Jaguar Shark scene. It's a very eclectic soundtrack, and it's all used so well. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, that's kind of how all of his movies are.
Yeah. I want to say immediately too, I mean, any Wes Anderson movie, you're going to get beautiful cinematography and use of lighting and coloring and all this stuff. Like there's a specific scene whenever Angelica Houston reveals herself again, and she's like surrounded by all these like rose bushes and all this stuff behind this gate. Like everything just looks so saturated and beautiful, and all this color is popping. You know, you get these hints of red with their hats, and the, you know, contrast with the blue and the yellow of the you know, the color scheme of the ship. Like it's just these like beautiful primary colors, and you can tell that it's shot on film. Like it's just a gorgeous movie to look at.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I love about this movie and just Wes in general is that all of his movies are very consistent in quality.
Yeah.
Because you know, every time you jump into one of his films, you know you're going to get something that's unique, that is so full of style and charisma. And I really love that. And it all plays along with, you know, the way he decides to direct scenes, what camera motions he uses, even down to the colors. Like he uses a lot of those very specifically saturated colors. And I think we've talked about it before, but he's very symmetrical when it comes to, you know, framing and all that stuff. So he's got a lot of things that just treat the eye. You know what I mean? They're eye candy for sure.
Yeah. I also got to say, I really enjoy the writing in this. I enjoy the arc that Steve gets. He's originally very unlikable. He's a deadbeat dad who only wanted revenge in the beginning. And then he slowly starts to blossom into this character that truly wants the best for his crew and his son. And he shows that he truly does care in the end. He even abandons his mission of revenge and realizes that it's futile in the end. And it's something that I feel is very earned at the end of the film. And I love that, you know, at the end of it, whenever he does see all of that success and everything, and, you know, he decides to, you know, quit burying his problems and to just get out in the open with them and you know, face them head on. And he finds that success at the end. He just decides to walk away from it all and is just like, I'm just going to go back to doing what I love. And I think that that's something that is very honorable, and is something that at the end of it I'm like, all right, Steve, like, dude, you know, this is your winning moment. You're the champion in this moment, and I really root for him in that you know, entire last half of the movie.
Yeah, I also think the writing for the secondary characters is phenomenal too. Like, the character arcs that Klaus gets, even Eleanor and Jane, they all have something to say. You know what I mean? And like I had said earlier, I was so invested in their motivations, whether it be Jane talking to the phone of who the father could be, or, you know, Eleanor having to deal with all the crap that Steve has given her and all that stuff. I just enjoyed all the characters. Yeah. And I think that plays into the acting. Yeah. I think the acting is phenomenal. Yeah. Everyone fits their role kind of perfectly.
Yeah, same. I think that also plays into the cast.
Oh, yeah. I was just about to say, one thing that I really liked about this, that's going to make this movie memorable for me, is the cast.
Yeah. Like,
Bill Murray.
It's cast perfectly, I think. There's nobody else that could play Steve Zissou the way Bill Murray could. And, like, I know that Klaus, that Willem Dafoe plays Klaus, like, he's such a minor character, but I love him in this movie. Like, I laugh so much whenever he's just, is he dead? Like it's such a little line, and he has such little dialogue sometimes, but he's such a funny character, and I couldn't imagine anybody else doing anything in this movie. I feel like it's cast perfectly.
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Any other thing for what did work for you guys?
That's it for me.
Yeah, that's about it for me as well.
All right. Well, if that's it, who wins this movie?
I put Bill Murray.
Yeah, Bill Murray, Steve Zissou, all the way.
Yeah, me as well. This was one of the movies, you know, alongside, you know, other movies that I watched as a kid growing up, like Ghostbusters and Stripes and What About Bob and
Groundhog Day.
Yeah, Groundhog Day. All those other ones, like Zombieland.
Probably his best one.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but this is one of those movies where I kind of started to really appreciate Bill Murray for who he is, and you know, I would end up going back and watching Rushmore for the first time and being like, this is like the first movie that him and Wes Anderson worked on together, and like seeing that and seeing their relationship blossom to where it is now, like even him being in The French Dispatch, which is his most recent film. Yep. Like he tries to work with him all the time, and I love their relationship with one another, and I truly do appreciate Bill Murray for the actor and the comedian that he is. Yeah. He's great. I love him.
I definitely agree. He kind of fills his role perfectly. Yeah. And it's something that, I mean, I had not watched a lot of his serious roles, just Ghostbusters and, like you said, Zombieland. So to see him in this, it was fresh, you know.
I didn't even bring up him in Lost in Translation.
Yeah, Lost in Translation too.
He's awesome in that.
He has some serious, like he's kind of unique in it as well in his acting.
Yeah, I almost kind of want to liken him to like Adam Sandler.
A little bit, right?
And like you know, he has a lot of funny movies. He's known for being a funny guy, but when he does serious stuff, he can really bring it out and really nail that role.
He's in Mr. Fantastic Fox. Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yeah, he's in almost every one of.
He's the Badger. No?
Yeah. He's in almost every one of his movies.
I'm looking at Bill Murray movies right now. That's why I brought it up.
He brings this like realness.
Yeah.
And like visceral, real. Like he's a real person. You know what I mean? I don't see him as like a billionaire actor or anything. I just see him as a genuine guy.
Yeah.
He's just a guy.
He's a person.
He's just a guy.
Yeah.
Which I love.
Yeah. All right. What are some themes for this movie?
What do you got? You got anything?
I immediately had written down this movie is about a legacy fading and then having a resurgence.
Yeah. Similar to Birdman, huh?
Yeah, somewhat. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't write anything down because I have slacked. But you know, there is something to do with you know, having to deal with your problems in ways that are productive rather than, you know, burying them down. Yeah. I think is something.
Yeah, most definitely. Or, you know, I guess you could also say, like, this is just off the dome, but, like, at some point in your life having to face the music. You know, like, you can't continue to run away from things that you're afraid of, and eventually you will have to answer for things that have happened in your life, and you have to come to terms with those things, and it's a matter of how you handle those things, and you know, it's a matter of how you handle those things and how you will come out on the other end. That's what will make you that will determine the person that you become.
Yeah.
Right? It'll determine whether or not you get to have an arc, or if you just are on the decline
Tank
after
it.
that. You know. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. If that's it for themes, what are we gonna rate this movie?
What have you got, AB?
You always put the pressure on me.
I do.
But don't hate me. I gave it a 6.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't hate
Anything
you.
above a 5, I think someone enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
like I said, there were some parts that I liked, and I just don't know if I'd ever return to it.
Okay.
Or recommend it.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm giving it an 8. This is personally one of my favorite Wes Anderson movies. It's something that I continue to rewatch, and I love it for everything that it is. It does have its issues, but it's almost like one of those things where I'm kind of like, I'm willing to look away, like a
Yeah.
little bit, you know. So
Yeah.
It's like a comfort movie.
yeah,
Almost.
I think so actually, and I think this is one of those movies I can kind of like just put on and be like,
I'm satisfied
I'm
with
satisfied. Like I can just let this play in the background and just be on my phone, you know. Like
Yeah.
it's one of those comfort movies, I think.
Yeah. Off the gut reaction, I'm gonna give it a 7.
Okay.
I enjoyed it. I think, when it comes to all Wes Anderson films, they're all gonna be great.
Yeah.
So whenever I say that it's on the low end of Wes
Yeah.
Anderson films, it still means it's good.
this. That's
Oh,
high
yeah.
low.
Because all of them
Yeah.
are good.
I think for me, and this is just me speaking,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think anything Wes Anderson puts out is like nothing less than a 7
Right?
for me. Like
Mhm.
like he puts out quality like every single time, so it's hard. Like I've never seen him put out a stinker. Like
I've yet to
never.
see it, yeah.
Like and I'll be surprised the day that happens. Whenever I do see him put something out, that's like, what happened, dude? That was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like
it's-
like everyone thinks it's bad.
Yeah.
That's when you know
yeah.
something's up.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, all right. Well, that's it for the episode, you guys. So if you did stick around to the end, make sure that you leave us a like and a comment and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Know that
Yes.
we've been getting a lot more traffic on the YouTube channel, which is it's been nice to see that growth there.
Yes.
And if you are not interacting with the content on YouTube, you can always continue to listen to us on podcasts on Spotify or Apple or Google. If you do so, leave us a rate and review. Let us know exactly what you're liking, what you're not liking, what you want to see us do, all that stuff. You can also get in contact with us on Instagram and Letterboxd. If you need to see that stuff or want to hear exactly where you can find all that, it's all in the episode descriptions. Go to those episode descriptions and find out exactly how you can contact us throughout, Instagram and all that stuff. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
all right. Well, without ado, I don't know what I was going to say.
Further ado.
Yeah, without further ado, there we go. I believe it is your pick, Nick.
It is, yes. So we're going to be diving back into the music world, and we are going to do the 2020 film Sound of Metal. You thought I was going to say Sound of Music, didn't I?
I wish. Oh, I did. If you did Sound of Music, I'd be so happy.
No. Sound of Metal with Riz Ahmed.
Yeah.
This, I guess, briefly, literally the only thing I know is that it's this heavy metal drummer that is slowly losing his hearing. And
I've watched this one already.
I've watched it
I
once.
really enjoyed it.
okay,
It was good.
I'm really excited.
I think you'll enjoy it. I think I don't want to hype it up too much for you and build up hope for you, but
Yeah.
the way that they decide to show certain things and the way that they make you feel for a character
Yeah.
is unmatched.
Yeah.
And it really drives home the fact, like, man, I feel bad for this guy. Like, this is really affecting him, and
Yeah.
it's really good.
I don't want to make light of the condition, whatever he has, but for real, sometimes I'm like, dude, I can't hear anything.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm going to watch this and be like, oh, I kind of know what he's talking about. Or I've been in that, like, obviously, I've self-diagnosed. I don't know what the heck is going on. But, sometimes I feel like I need subtitles in real life, bro.
Yeah.
So that's why
I'm
I'm
so
You gotta
excited.
get that Vax wax that you
It's
see
go-
as seen on TV and go. Bzzz.
No,
Yeah.
let me just do what my family did when we were younger. Just burn newspaper in your ear.
I've seen that.
Yeah,
I've
works.
done the whole hydrogen peroxide thing.
that's some bruja stuff.
No, it's not. that's
some-
not brujeria.
That's some witch doctor stuff, bro.
You put the incense with it too, or no?
No, what they would do is they would like put a little bit of alcohol in the inside,
Uh-huh.
like in the cone, and then you just go and then light the tip of it, and with the heat, it just goes down and it bubbles up.
Like sucks it out.
Yeah.
But when you do it, you have to listen to "Got a Black Magic Woman."
By Santana.
Dude,
No, I remember doing that, and all we listened to was Los Tigres del Norte.
That's funny.
I'm excited though. That's a good movie. I watched it once and I'm excited to watch it again.
So I'll be the
Yeah.
only one that's new to it, right?
Yeah, this will be a second rewatch for me.
Interesting. Okay. So yeah, it's streaming on Prime Video. It was on Hulu, but not anymore, I don't
Yeah,
think.
it's a Prime original.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it was made by Amazon Studios.
Now, did this win any awards?
I
remember people talking about
wanna
it.
Say I think it did, but like I don't. Unfortunately, I don't think it won
I just typed
anything.
Sound of Music instead of Sound of Metal.
This guy.
I think it didn't. I don't think it won anything like for like acting, which is very unfortunate.
Wow.
Yeah, it got
It didn't win
nominated.
anything big.
Yeah, it got nominated for Best Picture and Best Actor. I think the only thing it won was Best Editing.
Best editing. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's an award winner.
It won the Oscar for Best Sound, yeah.
Yeah.
And it'll be our second Riz Ahmed movie, first being the Nightcrawler.
Yes.
So
Yeah. I really like him in this, so I'm excited to do this
he's
one
so
again.
good.
Yeah.
There's one scene that I'm thinking about and it makes me like almost tear up.
Yeah, this movie is a tearjerker.
yeah, I imagine it being like almost similar to Stars Born. Similar in that range of like someone just getting their life ripped away from them.
Yeah.
Like not even they have no control over it either.
Yeah.
So I'm imagining crying at least a little bit.
So we'll find out next week.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So, all right, tune in with us next week to hear what we think about The Sound of Metal. Again, streaming on Prime.
Yes.
As always, this has been the Film Bros Podcast. Thank you, and good night.
Good night.
Good night.